Chapter 12. Granny was in an impatient and irritable mood. It was evident that roulette had made a deep impression on her mind. She took no notice of anything else and was altogether absent-minded. For instance, she asked me no questions on the road as she had done before. Seeing a luxurious carriage whirling by, she was on the point of raising her hand and asking, "What is it? Whose is it?" But I believe she did not hear what I answered. Her absorption was continually interrupted by abrupt and impatient gesticulations. When I pointed out to her Baron and Baroness Bermerhelm, who were approaching the casino, she looked absent-mindedly at them and said, quite indifferently, "Ah," and, turning round quickly to Potapych and Marfa, who were walking behind her, snapped out to them, "Why are you hanging upon us? We can't take you every time. Go home. You and I are enough," she added when they had hurriedly turned and gone home. They were already expecting Granny at the casino. They immediately made room for her in the same place, next to the croupier. I fancied that these croupiers, who are always so strictly decorous, and appear to be ordinary officials who are absolutely indifferent as to whether the bank wins or loses, are by no means so unconcerned at the bank's losses, and, of course, receive instructions for attracting players and for augmenting the profits, for which they doubtless receive prizes and bonuses. They looked upon Granny, anyway, as their prey. Then, just what we had expected happened. This was how it was. Granny pounced at once on 0 and immediately ordered me to stake 12 Friedrich's door. She staked once, twice, 3 times. 0 never turned up. "Put it down! Put it down!" Granny nudged me impatiently. I obeyed. "How many times have we staked?" she asked at last, grinding her teeth with impatience. "I have staked 12 times, Granny. I have put down 144 Friedrich's door. I tell you, Granny, very likely till evening—" "Hold your tongue," Granny interrupted. "Stake on 0, and stake it once 1,000 gulden on red. Here, take the note." Red won, and 0 failed once more. 1,000 gulden was gained. You see," whispered Granny. "We have gained almost all that we have lost. Stake again on 0. We'll stake 10 times more and then give it up." But the 5th time Granny was thoroughly sick of it. "The devil take that filthy 0. Come, stake the whole 4,000 gulden on red," she commanded me. "Granny, it will be so much. Why, what if red does not turn up?" I besought her. But Granny almost beat me. Indeed, she nudged me so violently that she might almost be said to have attacked me. There was no help for it. I staked on red the whole 4,000 won that morning. The wheel turned. Granny sat calmly and proudly erect, never doubting that she would certainly win. 0! boomed the croupier. At first Granny did not understand, but when she saw the croupier scoop up her 4,000 gulden, together with everything on the table, and learned that 0, which had not turned up for so long, and on which we had staked in vain almost 200 Friedrich's door, had, as though to spite her, turned up just as Granny was abusing it, she groaned and flung up her hands in view of the whole hall. People around actually laughed. "Holy saints! The cursed thing has turned up!" Granny wailed. "The hateful, hateful thing! That's your doing! It's all your doing!" She pounced upon me furiously, pushing me.
"It was you persuaded me."
"Granny, I talked sense to you. How can I answer for chance?"
"I'll chance you,"
she whispered angrily.
"Go away."
"Goodbye, Granny." I turned to go away.
"Alexei Ivanovitch, stop! Where are you off to? Come, what's the matter? He's in a rage. Stupid! Come, stay! Come, don't be angry. I am a fool myself. Come, tell me, what are we to do now?"
"I won't undertake to tell you, Granny, because you will blame me. Play for yourself. Tell me, and I'll put down the stakes."
Well. Come, stake another 4,000 gulden on red. Here, take my pocket-book."
She took it out of her pocket and gave it me.
"Come, make haste and take it. There's 20,000 rubles sterling in it."
"Granny," I murmured, "such stakes."
"As sure as I am alive, I'll win it back. Stake."
We staked and lost.
Stake the whole 8.
"You can't, Granny. 4 is the highest stake."
"Well, stake 4.
This time we won. Granny cheered up.
You see,
she nudged me.
"Stake 4 again."
She staked. She lost. Then we lost again and again. "Granny, the whole 12,000 is gone," I told her.
"I see it's all gone,"
she answered with the calm of fury, if I may so express it.
"I see, my good friend, I see,"
she muttered with a fixed, as it were absent-minded stare.
"As sure as I am alive, stake another 4,000 gulden."
"But there's no money, Granny. There are some of our Russian 5% and some bills of exchange of some sort, but no money."
"And in the purse?"
"There's some small change, Granny."
"Are there any money changers here? I was told one could change any of our notes,"
Granny inquired resolutely. "Oh, as much as you like, but what you'll lose on the exchange would horrify a Jew."
"Nonsense! I'll win it all back. Take me. Call those blockheads."
I wheeled away the chair. The porters appeared, and we went out of the casino.
Make haste, Granny commanded. "Show us the way, Alexei Ivanovitch, and take us the nearest... Is it far?"
2 steps, Granny." But at the turning from the square into the avenue, we were met by our whole party. The General, de Greux, Mademoiselle Blanche, and her mamma. Polina Alexandrovna was not with them, nor Mr. Astley either.
"Well, don't stop us,"
cried Granny.
"Well, what do you want? I have no time to spare for you now."
I walked behind. De Greux ran up to me. "She's lost all she gained this morning, and 12,000 gulden as well. We are going to change some 5%, I whispered to him quickly. De Greux stamped and ran to tell the General. We went on wheeling Granny. "Stop! The General whispered to me frantically. "You try stopping her," I whispered. "Auntie," said the General, approaching. "Auntie, we are just... His voice quivered and failed him. "Hiring a horse and driving into the country. A most exquisite view. The Peak. We were coming to invite you."
"Oh, bother you and your Peak!"
Granny waved him off irritably. There are trees there. We will have tea, the general went on, utterly desperate. Nous boirons du lait sur l'herbe fraîche, added de Grue with ferocious fury. Du lait, de l'herbe fraîche. That is the Paris bourgeois notion of the ideally idyllic. That is, as we all know, his conception of nature et la vérité.
Oh, go on with you and your milk. Lap it up yourself, it gives me the bellyache. And why do you pester me? Cried Granny. I tell you, I've no time to waste.
It's here, Granny, I said. It's here. We had reached the house where the bank was. I went in to change the notes. Granny was left waiting at the entrance. De Grue, the general, and Blanche stood apart waiting, not knowing what to do. Granny looked wrathfully at them, and they walked away in the direction of the casino. They offered me such ruinous terms that I did not accept them, and went back to Granny for instructions.
Ah, the brigands!
She cried, flinging up her hands.
Well, never mind. Change it,
she cried resolutely.
Stay, call the banker out to me.
One of the clerks, Granny, do you mean?
Yes, a clerk. It's all the same. Ah, the brigands!
The clerk consented to come when he learned that it was an invalid and aged countess, unable to come in, who was asking for him. Granny spent a long time loudly and angrily reproaching him for swindling her, and haggled with him in a mixture of Russian, French, and German, while I came to the rescue in translating. The grave clerk listened to us in silence and shook his head. He looked at Granny with an intent stare that was hardly respectful. At last he began smiling.
Well, get along with you, cried Granny. Choke yourself with the money. Change it with him, Alexei Ivanovitch. There's no time to waste, or we would go elsewhere.
The clerk says that other banks give even less. I don't remember the sums exactly, but the banker's charges were terrible. I received close upon 12,000 florins in gold and notes, took the account, and carried it to Granny.
Well, 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 it's no use counting it,
she said with a wave of her hand.
Make haste, make haste, make haste! I'll never stake again on that damned zero, nor on the red either, she pronounced as she was wheeled up to the casino.
This time I did my very utmost to impress upon her the necessity of staking smaller sums, trying to persuade her that with a change of luck she would always be able to increase her stake. But she was so impatient that, though she agreed at first, it was impossible to restrain her when the play had begun. As soon as she had won a stake of 10, of 20 Friedrichsdor,
There you see, she would begin nudging me. There you see, we've won. If only we had staked 4,000 instead of 10, we should have won 4,000. But as it is, what's the good? It's all your doing, all your doing.
And, vexed as I felt watching her play, I made up my mind at last to keep quiet and to give no more advice. Suddenly de Grue skipped up. The other two were close by. I noticed Mademoiselle Blanche standing on one side with her mother, exchanging amenities with the prince. The general was obviously out of favor, almost banished. Blanche would not even look at him, though he was doing his utmost to cajole her. The poor general! He flushed and grew pale by turns, trembled and could not even follow Granny's play. Blanche and the prince finally went away. The general ran after them. "Madame, madame," de Grue whispered in a honeyed voice to Granny, squeezing his way close up to her ear. Madame, such stakes do not answer. No, no, it's impossible, he said in broken Russian. No.
How then? Come, show me,
said Granny, turning to him. De Greux babbled something rapidly in French, began excitedly advising, said she must wait for a chance, began reckoning some numbers. Granny did not understand a word. He kept turning to me, for me to translate, tapped the table with his fingers, pointed, finally took a pencil and was about to reckon something on paper. At last Granny lost patience.
Come, get away, get away! You keep talking nonsense! Madame, madame, he doesn't understand it himself! Go away!
Mais madame, de Greux murmured, and he began once more showing and explaining.
Well, stake once, as he says, Granny said to me. Let us see. Perhaps it really will answer.
All de Greux wanted was to dissuade her from staking large sums. He suggested that she should stake on numbers, either individually or collectively. I staked as he directed, a Friedrich door on each of the odd numbers in the first 12, and 5 Friedrichs d'or respectively on the groups of numbers from 12 to 18, and from 18 to 24, staking in all 16 Friedrichs d'or. The wheel turned. 0! cried the croupier. We had lost everything.
You blockhead!
cried Granny, addressing de Greux.
You scoundrelly Frenchman! So this is how he advises the monster! Go away, go away! He knows nothing about it and comes fussing round.
Fearfully offended, de Greux shrugged his shoulders, looked contemptuously at Granny, and walked away. He felt ashamed of having interfered. He had been in too great a hurry. An hour later, in spite of all our efforts, we had lost everything.
Home!
cried Granny. She did not utter a single word till we got into the avenue. In the avenue and approaching the hotel, she began to break into exclamations.
What a fool! What a silly fool! You're an old fool, you are!
As soon as we got to her apartments.
Tea! cried Granny. And pack up at once. We are going.
Where does your honour mean to go? Marfa was beginning.
What is it to do with you? Mind your own business. Potapitch, pack up everything, all the luggage. We are going back to Moscow. I have thrown away 15,000 roubles.
15,000, madame! My God! Potapitch cried, flinging up his hands with deep feeling, probably meaning to humour her.
Come, come, you fool! He is beginning to whimper. Hold your tongue. Pack up. The bill. Make haste, make haste.
The next train goes at 9:30, Granny, I said to check her furor.
And what is it now?
7:30.
How annoying. Well, it doesn't matter. Alexei Ivanovitch, I haven't a farthing. Here are 2 more notes. Run there and change these for me too, or I have nothing for the journey.
I set off. Returning to the hotel half an hour later, I found our whole party at Granny's. Learning that Granny was going off to Moscow, they seemed to be even more upset than by her losses. Even though her going might save her property, what was to become of the general? Who would pay de Greux? Mademoiselle Blanche would, of course, decline to wait for Granny to die, and would certainly now make up to the prince or to somebody else. They were all standing before Granny, trying to console her and persuade her. Again, Polina was not there. Granny was shouting at them furiously.
"Let me alone, you devils! What business is it of yours? Why does that goat's beard come forcing himself upon me?"
she cried at Degrue.
"And you, my fine bird,"
she cried, addressing Mademoiselle Blanche,
"what are you after?"
"Diantre," whispered Mademoiselle Blanche with an angry flash of her eyes, but suddenly she burst out laughing and went out of the room.
"Vivre Saint Anne!"
she called to the general as she went out of the door.
"Ah, so you are reckoning on my death?"
Granny yelled to the general.
"Get away! Turn them all out, Alexei Ivanovitch! What business is it of yours? I've fooled away my own money, not yours."
The general shrugged his shoulders, bowed, and went out. Degrue followed him.
"Call Praskovia,"
Granny told Marfa. 5 minutes later, Marfa returned with Polina. All this time Polina had been sitting in her own room with the children, and I fancy had purposely made up her mind not to go out all day. Her face was serious, sad, and anxious.
"Praskovia,"
began Granny,
"is it true, as I learned by accident just now, that fool, your stepfather, means to marry that silly featherhead of a Frenchwoman? An actress is she, or something worse? Tell me, is it true?"
"I don't know anything about it for certain, Granny," answered Polina, "but from the words of Mademoiselle Blanche herself, who does not feel it necessary to conceal anything, I conclude—"
"Enough!"
Granny broke in vigorously.
"I understand. I always reckoned that he was capable of it, and I have always thought him a most foolish and feather-headed man. He thinks no end of himself because he is a general. He was promoted from a colonel on retiring, and he gives himself airs. I know, my good girl, how you kept sending telegram after telegram to Moscow to ask if your old granny would soon be laid out. They were on the lookout for my money. Without money, that nasty hussy, what's-her-name, de Comminges, wouldn't take him for her footman, especially with his false teeth. She has a lot of money herself, they say, lends at interest, has made a lot. I am not blaming you, Praskovia. It wasn't you who sent the telegrams, and I don't want to remember the past either. I know you've got a bad temper, a wasp. You can sting to hurt, but I'm sorry for you because I was fond of your mother, Katerina. Well, you throw up everything here and come with me. You've nowhere to go, you know, and it's not fitting for you to be with them now." "Stop!" cried Granny, as Polina was about to speak. "I've not finished. I ask nothing of you. As you know, I have in Moscow a palace. You can have a whole story to yourself and not come and see me for weeks at a time if my temper does not suit you. Well, will you or not?"
"Let me ask you first, do you really mean to set off at once?"
"Do you suppose I'm joking, my good girl? I've said I'm going, and I'm going. I've wasted 15,000 roubles today over your damned roulette. 5 years ago I promised to rebuild a wooden church with stone on my estate near Moscow, and instead of that I've thrown away my money here. Now, my girl, I'm going home to build the church."
"And the waters, Granny? You came to drink the waters?"
"Bother you and the waters too. Don't irritate me, Praskovia. Are you doing it on purpose? Tell me, will you come or not?"
"I thank you very, very much," Polina began with feeling, "for the home you offer me. You have guessed my position to some extent. I am so grateful to you that I shall perhaps come to you soon. But now there are reasons, important reasons, and I can't decide at once on the spur of the moment. If you were staying only a fortnight—"
"You mean you won't?"
"I mean I can't. Besides, in any case, I can't leave my brother and sister as it may actually happen that they may be left abandoned, so if you would take me with the children, Granny, I certainly would come, and believe me, I would repay you for it," she added warmly. "But without the children I can't come, Granny."
"Well, don't whimper."
Polina had no intention of whimpering. Indeed, I had never seen her cry.
"Some place will be found for the chickens. My hen-house is big enough. Besides, it is time they were at school. Well, so you are not coming now. Well, Praskovia, mind, I wished for your good, but I know why you won't come. I know all about it, Praskovia. That Frenchman will bring you no good."
Polina flushed crimson. I positively shuddered. "Everyone knows all about it. I am the only one to know nothing."
Come, don't frown. I am not going to say anything more. Only take care no harm comes of it, understand? You are a clever wench. I shall be sorry for you. Well, that's enough. I should not like to look on you as on the others. Go along. Goodbye."
"I'll come to see you off," said Polina.
"There's no need. Don't you interfere. I am sick of you all."
Polina was kissing Granny's hand, but the latter pulled it away and kissed her on the cheek. As she passed me, Polina looked at me quickly and immediately turned away her eyes.
"Well, goodbye to you too, Alexei Ivanovitch. There's only an hour before the train starts, and I think you must be tired out with me. Here, take these 50 pieces of gold."
"I thank you very much, Granny. I'm ashamed—"
Come,
cried Granny, but so vigorously and angrily that I dared say no more, and took it.
"When you are running about Moscow without a job, come to me. I will give you some introductions. Now get along with you."
I went to my room and lay down on my bed. I lay there for half an hour on my back, with my hands clasped behind my head. The catastrophe had come at last. I had something to think about. I made up my mind to talk earnestly to Polina. The nasty Frenchman. So it was true, then. But what could there be at the bottom of it? Polina and de Grue. Heavens, what a pair! It was all simply incredible. I suddenly jumped up beside myself to look for Mr. Astley, and at all costs to make him speak out. No doubt in this matter, too, he knew more than I did. Mr. Astley? He was another riddle to me. But suddenly there was a tap at my door. I looked up. It was Potapych. "Alexei Ivanovitch, you are wanted to come to my lady." "What's the matter? Is she setting off? The train does not start for 20 minutes. "She's uneasy. She can't sit still. 'Make haste, she says, meaning to fetch you, sir. For Christ's sake, don't delay." I ran downstairs at once. Granny was being wheeled out into the passage. Her pocket-book was in her hand.
"Alexei Ivanovitch, go on ahead. We're coming."
"Where, Granny?"
"As sure as I'm alive, I'll win it back. Come, march, don't ask questions. Does the play go on there till midnight?"
I was thunderstruck. I thought a moment, but at once made up my mind. "Do as you please, Antonida Vassilievna. I'm not coming."
"What's that for? What now? Have you all eaten too many pancakes, or what?"
"Do as you please. I should blame myself for it afterwards. I won't. I won't take part in it or look on at it. Spare me, Antonida Vassilievna. Here are your 50 Friedrichsdor back. Goodbye." And laying the 50 Friedrichsdor on the little table near which Granny's chair was standing, I bowed and went out.
"What nonsense!" Granny shouted after me. "Don't come if you don't want to. I can find the way by myself. Potapych, come with me. Come, lift me up, carry me."
I did not find Mr. Astley and returned home. It was late after midnight when I learned from Potapych how Granny's day ended. She lost all that I had changed for her that evening. That is, in Russian money, another 10,000 rubles. The little Pole to whom she had given 2 Friedrichsdor the day before had attached himself to her and had directed her play the whole time. At first, before the Pole came, she had made Potapych put down the stakes, but soon she dismissed him. It was at that moment the Pole turned up. As ill luck would have it, he understood Russian and babbled away in a mixture of 3 languages, so that they understood each other after a fashion. Granny abused him mercilessly the whole time, and though he incessantly laid himself at his lady's feet, "Yet he couldn't be compared with you, Alexey Ivanovitch," said Potapych. "She treated you like a gentleman, while the other, I saw it with my own eyes, God strike me dead, stole her money off the table. She caught him at it herself twice. She did give it to him with all sorts of names, sir, even pulled his hair once, upon my word she did, so that folks were laughing round about. She's lost everything, sir, everything, all you changed for her. We brought her back here. She only asked for a drink of water, crossed herself, and went to bed. She's worn out, to be sure. She fell asleep at once. God send her heavenly dreams. Oh, these foreign parts!" Potapych wound up. "I said it would lead to no good. If only we could soon be back in Moscow. We'd everything we wanted at home in Moscow. A garden, flowers such as you don't have here, fragrance, the apples are swelling, plenty of room everywhere. No, we had to come abroad. Oh, oh, oh." Breaking in. At this point there can be no credible doubt that Polina has had some sort of romantic adventure with the Frenchman in the past. Granny, whose behavior with Roulette is so foolish, nevertheless has clearly intuited the truth on this front. Polina's relation with Mr. Astley, however, remains a mystery. One other small detail might need explanation. When Alexey Ivanovitch says that the image of milk on the fresh grass is the parish bourgeois notion of nature et la vérité, he is making a reference to Rousseau, who believed that the ideal could be found in nature. In People Like de Grue, our narrator is saying, even naive ideas like Rousseau's can only find cheap expression. End of comments.